Hello and welcome to another episode of Snakes Territory. I'm Jesse Friedman alongside Jack Sommers. And if General Manager Mike Hazen needed any more reason to sell with this 2025 Diamondbacks team to really embrace that side of things here at the trade deadline, he got it over these past few days as the Diamondbacks lose 2 of 3 to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And in the process, Jack, they score 1 run in 29 innings.
Yeah, it's funny. Sunday morning, I went out hiking at Boyce Thompson Arboretum. And if anything was a metaphor for the series and the way Sunday was going to go against Paul Skeens, I got surrounded by turkey vultures. I guess they thought I was going to lay down and just, drop dead from my hike. So I was thinking about that a little bit today when I was hiking in the morning.
Yeah, it was a brutal showing, Jack. I think it was clear that some of the drama surrounding the trade deadline, the storylines that are obviously out there in the public sphere, some of that has crept into the clubhouse. I don't think there's really any doubt about that whatsoever. The Diamondbacks just looked fairly lifeless at times. I think especially with Eugenio Suárez, you could tell the bat quality was just very poor at times. He did not look good defensively for the most part, although I know he did make a couple of nice plays in the game on Sunday. But you can tell, Jack, this looks like a team that just lost one of its better players in Josh Naylor and also lost Randal Grichuk. We'll talk about that more later in the show. And the impact of those guys leaving and this team choosing to take this direction is certainly being felt right now.
Absolutely. I mean, it's arguable that this was the worst offensive series in franchise history. It's only the second time in franchise history they had a 3-game series where they only scored 1 run. The last time that happened was back in 2000, September of 2000, against the Dodgers near the end of the season. But that was a series where there was no ghost runner, and it was 27 innings. The lone run the D-backs scored was in the top of the 11th inning in game 1. It was a ghost runner scoring on a sacrifice fly. So basically, half gift was the 1 run they scored. And the quality at bats, not just from Gino, but from almost everybody, was equally poor. This is a team that was clearly distracted, having difficulty focusing. I don't think it was lack of effort on part of the players or the coaches. I think there's a mile of difference between having difficulty focusing under very stressful conditions and not running out ground balls and not giving effort and not diving for a play and trying to make plays on defense. They tried. There wasn't an effort issue on the part of the players or the coaches, but clearly their minds were elsewhere. I mean, whether it was the trades going down, you just mentioned Merrill Kelly, the visual of him looking out over the field at the end of game 2. Everything we saw from Gino, I think it's pretty clear that that's the state of mind, or as Troy would say, that's the space they were in. That's the headspace they were in. As try as they might, they were not able to avoid that.
And Diamondbacks outfielder Corbin Carroll confirmed as much after that Sunday game. Here's a quote from Nick Picoro's story, our good friend over at the Arizona Republic, who was out in Pittsburgh covering the series. Carroll was asked about this, whether some of the trade news and rumors are having an impact, and he said, probably. Those things are natural. Our coaches did a good job of trying to prevent something like that from happening, but I think stuff like that can creep in. I think it's also a little bit the nature of where some of the hitters, including myself, are at, just a product of a couple of things. So yeah, I mean, Corbin is not saying it's all because of that. He's also pointing out like, hey, I haven't hit very well lately. And the same goes for some of the other guys in this offense as well. Ketel Marte, we've talked about recently, has just not really been the same guy for a few weeks at this point. But no doubt the rumors are having an impact with this team right now.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize, look, these are human beings, right? These are good people trying their best. They are doing the best that they know how to do under what for them is trying circumstances. As I wrote today, we don't have to feel sorry for them. I mean, most of them make money that most people listening to this wouldn't make in 10 or 100 lifetimes. But we should still feel compassion and empathy for what they're going through as well. I mean, as fans, for sure, there's a lot of frustration and upsetness, as there should be. I mean, people are invested emotionally in this team and want them to do well, and people spend a lot of time and effort to follow this team and root for them, and they might spend money on tickets or buying packages, buying gear. So everybody's feelings are valid here. But just remember, these players are human beings just like we are. They need H2O to survive. They bleed red. I mean, that's just, they're people, and they're going to have natural human emotions just like we do.
Zac Gallen in the game on Sunday. Jack, of course, possibly his final start as a member of the Diamondbacks. He was not particularly sharp. 6 innings, 5 hits allowed, 4 runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. I don't think we need to go too deep in the weeds, get too deep in the weeds on exactly what went wrong for Gallen today. But I do think it's relevant, the larger question of his trade value. And as the Diamondbacks look to potentially find a trade partner for him in the coming days, it probably isn't a good thing that he has not been great here in 3 consecutive outings.
Not only that, but the Pirates are a very weak hitting team, and seeing his outing juxtaposed, as you have on the screen here against, Nelson, 6 innings, 1 hit, no runs. Kelly, 6 2/3, 6 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned.
Right.
Uh, Thanks to Suárez making an error. And then Zac, I mean, he gave up some hard contact in the first. It went quickly, though, for him. The ball found gloves. He gave up a walk after getting ahead 1-2 to O'Neill Cruz, and Cruz ends up scoring from first base on a line shot into the gap for a single by Tommy Pham. That was pretty darn impressive. And then from there, he gives up 2 more the next inning, just, not able to avoid the hard contact, all the narrative of James McCann's getting him to throw his fastball in the zone, but here he is hanging curveballs and just, not really figuring out how to get guys out when he gets ahead in the count. And nibble, 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 here we go, boom. So same old, unfortunately. And, it's a legitimate question now, as we'll get to, like, has he damaged his trade value? But the team also helped nobody. 0 for 19 with runners in scoring position in this series. I mean, that's just unbelievable. So the whole thing was just a mess. I do got to say, he's not up on the screen there, but Paul Skeens is so impressive.
Yeah.
They have great graphics too on the show, on the TV, showing that how the difference of how long it takes for the fastball versus the changeup to get there, and it's like a 6-foot difference, and you saw guys just swinging and missing and not being able to lay off the changeup. It just, the arm action, it must look exactly like the fastball from the hitter in the box, and he's the reason why he is what he is.
Yeah, and I mean, what blows my mind is the fact that he's throwing 7 different pitches. I mean, people see the 99-mile-an-hour velocity. It's like, oh, he's got a big fastball. He must just be riding it out with that fastball. But no, I mean, he has a deeper arsenal than basically anyone in baseball. It is really impressive. The D-backs' offensive struggles on Sunday, a little more excusable, certainly, than the struggles on Friday and Saturday. I guess we do have to mention, Jack, on a positive note, that Friday game was pretty wild. Ryan Nelson, as you said earlier, was outstanding. Anthony DeSclafani was outstanding in relief behind him as well. 4 scoreless innings, one of which was with the ghost runner in the 10th inning, which he was able to strand. And just a totally crazy stat on the basis of that game. The Diamondbacks, according to OptaStats, are the only MLB team in the modern era to win a game 1-0 in 11 plus innings while allowing only 1 hit or none, which is just bonkers to me. I mean, the D-backs were 1 Tommy Pham triple away from no hitting the Pittsburgh Pirates for 11 innings. It was a totally wild game.
Right. Yeah, it's unbelievable that they were able to pull that off. I mean, DeSclafani giving them 4 scoreless in relief. I mean, what a find he's been. Imagine where that have been. That's just like the 3rd time he's gone 3 or more innings without giving up a run, I think, right?
Yeah,
In
yeah.
relief. So that's pretty impressive. I want to circle back to one other point and tie back something on the Skeens outing to what we were just saying about the team's effort. They were trying. They made Skeens throw 99 pitches. I think he was in like the mid 70s through 4 innings. They had runners in scoring position like in 3 straight innings there where,
Yeah.
they unfortunately couldn't get the hit. But they were trying to grind out at bats. They just couldn't make it happen, which is understandable against that guy. But Skeens had not thrown over 88 pitches in 5 straight outings. The Pirates were very much invested in scaling back his workload. And the D-backs really made him work to 99 pitches. So it wasn't complete lack of focus. I mean, they were trying their best to work the count, get him out of the game early. And surprisingly, the Pirates, let him get all the way up to 99, which I didn't think they would do. I was a little surprised he came back out for the 6th.
Yeah, we talked about it going into the series that the Pirates have been clipping him a little bit shorter lately, so that was odd to see that. Well, yeah, we have certainly a lot to get to here with regard to what's next for the Diamondbacks. Did we just see the last start for Merrill Kelly in a D-backs uniform and for Zac Gallen? Is Eugenio Suárez going to be dealt here in the next few days? We'll also circle back around to the Randal Grichuk trade and talk a little bit about what the D-backs got in return for him. We'll do all that on the other side of this break.
Kratz, at some point, we're going to laugh about how healthcare was so reactive and not proactive. And we're starting to change that with Superpower. They believe every human has 100+ year potential, and they're here to help you get there. I'm a big believer in this. I just started the journey, so I'm excited about it. And what do you think?
As a player, you're always looking ways to improve yourself, improve your health. And this is an easy way. Superpower's made it way easier than when I was playing. You had to go get all these lab panels, and it was a long, drawn out, expensive process. But now with Superpower, so this is awesome for me. I'm excited about it.
They'll send a licensed professional to your home, or you can visit a nearby lab. For a limited time, the FT fam can get $50 off an annual Superpower membership by using code FOUL at checkout. Just head to superpower.com and use code FOUL to get our exclusive discount. Your biology decoded, your blueprint activated with Superpower. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, and please support FT and tell them we sent you.
Well, Jack, we've gotten quite a bit of reporting here in the last 24, 48 hours over where the Diamondbacks stand at the trade deadline. I'll start with a couple quick notes here from Ken Rosenthal. Ken published a story, I think it was during the D-backs Saturday game, where he talked about how the team's initial preference was to trade either Zac Gallen or Merrill Kelly. We've certainly covered that on the show, but he talked about how the market is forcing the D-backs to reconsider that stance. So he didn't say definitively that the team is going to trade both of those guys, but it sounds like things are trending in that direction.
If that's where it's going, then certainly, 2026 might end up looking a little bit better. But get ready for a lot of Anthony DeSclafani in a starter's role, and/or Bryce Jarvis or Dylan Ray, unless they manage to get somebody back that they can plug into the rotation right now, which, as we've discussed ad nauseum, is probably not going to happen. That you're going to get a guy that you can start right now and be better than any of the other options that you have right now. They might be able to get that. I can't rule it out, but it's very difficult. So, at the same time, I mean, maybe the reality of this team and what we're seeing is they're not close, right? So they may as well just do it.
Yeah. And that's the sense we got after the Josh Naylor trade, was that, this is something the team wanted to do, but it was still sort of open what they were going to do. Mike Hazen talked about still wanting to see the team continue to play. But I mean, after watching this Pirates series this weekend and the Padres won a couple games over the weekend as well. The D-backs are 6 games out of that third wild card spot. I don't really see any case to, other than the what we've talked about before with the qualifying offer, and you want to make sure that you get more from a team than that compensatory draft pick. That still stands and could still be a valid reason to hold on to one or two of these guys. But beyond that, it really feels like the D-backs should just go full on sell mode. There's some interesting notes as well in Nick Picoro's story on Saturday night after the Randal Grichuk trade. Nick wrote about how these deals should be viewed as independent of what the Diamondbacks could happen next, or of what could happen for the Diamondbacks next. Nick went on to say that Mike Hazen did not dispute that there is growing momentum toward a larger sell-off, and he acknowledged that the markets are robust for some of these guys on expiring contracts. So on one hand, you have Hazen indicating like, the Grichuk and Naylor deals, like these were kind of in a separate category. We're maybe going to do these anyway. But on the other hand, Jack, you have Mike Hazen acknowledging like, yeah, the markets are looking pretty good. And obviously we're willing to talk about any of these guys.
Yeah. I mean, if I could just read off what he said exactly to Nick, I think it would be useful. We'll see what we get back. We'll see who we end up ultimately trading. We're not just going to sell to the lowest bidder in some of these cases. I'm comfortable holding some of these guys with the backdrop of the qualifying offers. So there's that coming up again.
Right.
We'll see what happens. I'm curious to see where the market goes as well. They'll make the deals that they have to make if they're out there. But again, it comes back to the qualifying offers and how they're factoring all of that in. They clearly have every intention to make a qualifying offer to each of these three players if they don't trade them.
Yeah.
So that's the baseline that they're valuing. Is the return better than the qualifying offer? Now, they save money when they trade these guys, and that's money that can be used towards filling holes next year as well. So that needs to be factored in, right? I mean, between all three of them, I guess we're talking 7, 15, 22, and Gallen 11. That's $33 million. So between the three of them, you're saving about $11 million.
Yeah.
Right. And they already saved almost $8 million by trading Grichuk and Naylor. Right. So between 11 and 8, that's $19-20 million to add to the pool of money that you have. One of the things we had talked about was, although they have 70 plus million of expiring contracts coming off the books, they have other contracts that are escalating, and the true number that they could spend next offseason, if all things being equal in terms of total payroll, would be closer to 50 million, not the 70 plus. But
Right.
now if you can load back in $20 million that you saved, and Ken says to Mike, yeah, that's part of your new budget. So in other words, maybe the budget goes up because you saved 20 million in 2025, or maybe part of that goes up. Who knows how they work it out. So there's a value there as well. So you have the qualifying offer plus the money saved.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I know Bob Nightingale had a notebook story that had all sorts of different nuggets in it on Sunday morning as well. There's a couple of Diamondbacks related things in here. He noted that the Diamondbacks had no intention of trading Josh Naylor so quickly, but the Mariners' offer overwhelmed them with Ashton Izzy and Brandyn Garcia. So I thought that was interesting, Jack. It surprised me maybe a little bit, just because I don't think, at least reporters and pundits, it doesn't feel like the perception of this deal is the D-backs did so well for themselves, that like, oh my gosh, you had to take that deal the moment that it was presented to you. But I also think it's possible that maybe some of us in the media are not really aware of the first base market, and in particular for someone like Josh Naylor, who is limited defensively and is also a lot better against right-handed pitching than he is against lefties.
Also, it comes down to who the Diamondbacks like and how much they like them and how much they were targeting them.
Right.
One of the things I wrote about, and I think we might have even mentioned it when we reviewed the trade Thursday night, but, I wrote my own trade grade and I gave it a B, which, in my mind is good. A B is good. It's above average, right?
Sure.
C is average. B is good. You're a teacher. I think that's legit, right?
It checks out.
Yeah. So, I didn't give it a B plus or A minus, but a lot of people might have wanted to based on prospect rankings, right? Because you got two guys that you could slot in at, 11 and 13 in your system, but at the same time, those rankings are so subjective.
Yeah.
You got two minor league players that both have potential, and the attrition rate is high. So, I didn't want to go like all gaga over this. Although, and we're going to talk about that later in the show, Brandyn Garcia was pretty impressive to us in what he threw. So, I think that it's fair to say that they certainly did fine. There's no problem with the return that they got. Whether it's great or, we should be effusive in our praise there, I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know nearly as much about these players as the Diamondbacks do. I know 1/50th of what they know about these players. So you have to just assume that they know what they're talking about, right? They're the professionals. They've forgotten more than I know about baseball. And I know a fair amount, but they've forgotten more than I'll ever know. So they got to be right.
Ultimately, we won't really be able to evaluate that trade or the Grichuk trade that we'll talk about a little bit later until, probably a few years from now when you have an idea, maybe a long time from now. I mean, Ashton Izzy is probably 2 or 3 years away from even debuting. And then once he debuts, if he gets to that point, then, you're going to have several years in the majors probably before you really feel like you can evaluate what he turns into. So we're really far away. It's hard for me to really get too caught up in what's a good trade, what's not a good trade with those types of deals. A couple of other notes on the reporting side, Jack, that have stood out to me. Patrick Mooney over at The Athletic does a great job covering the Cubs, and he wrote a story on Sunday talking about how the Cubs are still in on Eugenio Suárez, even though Matt Shaw has gone off for them after the All-Star break. He's been really, really good. And of course, he was their main third base option coming into the season. It didn't work out too well for them, but now he seems to have kind of bounced back. So it's worth noting the Cubs are still in, although Mooney did note that it will be a factor for the Cubs as they weigh how much they're willing to get rid of in exchange for Suárez. You're not going to be willing to part with as much probably if you have a more viable in-house candidate. The other report, Jack, that I want to hit on that just came out a couple minutes ago as we're recording this is from Francis Romero. He said that trade talks between the Yankees and Diamondbacks over Eugenio Suárez stalled after Arizona asked for an MLB player, an upper-level prospect, AA or AAA, and at least one lower-level prospect per industry sources. Yankees still holding tight to top farm talent. I guess that isn't all that shocking, Jack, but it just came out, so I'm curious what your initial thoughts are there.
Well, that's a very high bar, right? So that's well above the value of the compensation pick, if that report is accurate. It's like cold water in the face, even about whether or not Eugenio Suárez will even be traded if that's what they're asking for.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we would love to know which MLB player the Diamondbacks asked the Yankees for. Was it Cam Schlittler, the guy we talked about on the show a few days ago? We don't know. We'll probably never know. So that's kind of a moot point, but still an interesting note there nonetheless.
I think the key point here, though, is, I think the McMahon trade went down after our last show. So, the Yankees are off the table for Suárez, right? Obviously. So now we have, Matt Shaw heating up. The Reds are supposedly still involved. I think at the end of the day, if they move them, and then, it's because they lowered their price and they end up going back to Seattle because, the Dipoto Hazen thing, they just can't resist each other.
The Phillies are another team that's been mentioned here. I know you and I have talked offline about what a D-backs Phillies trade might look like. It's fun to try to pretend like we know what these teams are actually looking for. I don't know. There've been some credible reports about Mick Abel. I know several Phillies reporters have talked about how Mick Abel is someone who doesn't really fit into the Phillies rotation right now and could be a trade piece for them. Certainly a well-regarded pitching prospect. Would the Diamondbacks be interested in Alec Boehm as someone who could help them cover first base or third base next year, give them a little bit of flexibility? He has another year of team control, but is hurt right now. I don't know. Maybe there's something there. Maybe there isn't. But I guess based on the series that we just saw, Jack, I think we alluded to it earlier. Do you think that Eugenio Suárez going 1 for 11 in the Pirates series with 5 strikeouts, I think he's 1 for his last 20 now since that home run he hit against the Astros on Monday with 10 strikeouts. Do you think that teams are maybe going to be concerned with what they've seen from him lately?
I think it should not impact their evaluation too much. I mean, I don't think it should. That doesn't mean it won't.
Yeah.
But, one bad week should not change the evaluation that they had of the player. by the same token, they probably don't evaluate him as highly as, the buzz was getting about him with his hot streak, especially coming out of the All-Star break. I mean, our team's going to look at Eugenio Suárez and think, okay, this is a guy on pace, to hit close to 60 homers. Do I expect him to hit another 20 for me?
Yeah.
We kind of went over this. I got a little egg on my face when he hit 4 homers right away out of the break, because I had posted the Fangraphs, projection that said he would hit 12 more. But, the regression to the mean is a thing. It happens. And it's difficult. I don't think any team was out there projecting him to maintain the same pace for the final 2.5 months of the season or final 2 months of the season. It just doesn't work like that. That's not how teams evaluate it. So, I think that means to me that one bad week should not have impacted their evaluation all that much.
I think that's a debate that a lot of front offices are probably having right now. Like, what do you think what is Geno Suárez going to be for the last 2 months of the season? I guess ultimately you really have no idea, because 2 months is not very long and really anything can happen. But even in that Patrick Mooney story that I referenced earlier, there's some quotes in there about, people inside organizations on one hand saying, like, I don't know, maybe Suárez is going to regress in August and September. And then there's a quote from another source, I think inside the Cubs organization, who said something like, sometimes it's just your year, and maybe Suárez is actually going to go ahead and hit 58 home runs this season or whatever it is. So I'm sure that's a debate that a lot of teams are having right now. The Diamondbacks did make a trade though, Jack. They traded Randal Grichuk to the Kansas City Royals on Saturday, and we are going to talk about what they got back and how we feel about it on the other side of this break. Nothing says summer like long days, clutch plays, and firing off a few bets on the game, all with DraftKings Sportsbook. If you've never bet on baseball before, it's easy. Pick a guy to go yard, hammer some live odds mid-game, or just ride with your squad and hope for the best. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario, new customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Well, we had our first hug watch in Major League Baseball of the MLB trade deadline, and involved the Arizona Diamondbacks, as Randal Grichuk was seen very clearly on the broadcast, hugging pretty much all of his teammates in the D-backs dugout. It was I know that there isn't generally a ton of mystery when these things happen, Jack. This one I found to be very obvious that a trade was being made. The D-backs broadcast was pretty open about, like, yeah, it looks like a trade just happened. It turns out the Diamondbacks traded Grichuk to the Kansas City Royals, and in exchange, they receive right-handed reliever Andrew Hoffman, who is 25 years old, a 2.25 ERA this season in 40 innings down in AAA. In the Royals organization, 55 strikeouts to 10 walks, good numbers there. And he did make his big league debut for Kansas City earlier this season as well. He only allowed 1 earned run in 3 2/3 innings, gave up quite a few base runners. I think he allowed, I think it was like 4 runs, but only 1 of them was earned or something, or only 2 of them were earned, something like that. Yeah, this is another player, Jack, who could slide into the Diamondbacks bullpen sooner than later.
Yeah, he's a power arm. I mean, he's got 6 years of control. He's 25 years old. He's had a terrific AAA season. If he can throw strikes, he can definitely get outs. Having a young guy that throws hard, a power arm in your bullpen that you have 6 years of control over, I mean, if he's any good, maybe he's your next Kevin Ginkel, a little bit different repertoire, but that's kind of like the idea here, right? You get a guy at that age with that much control, and 3+ years to go before he's even ARB eligible. So that's the type of guy that you do need to get back. And for Randal Grichuk, I mean, that's more than an acceptable return. Also notable, the Diamondbacks are not going to be on the hook for the $3 million buyout that Grichuk was due. So essentially, they're saving about $3.7 million, give or take, by making this move. So that's money that they can use down the line, and they, get a power righty back. So good deal.
That felt really significant to me. I mean, the Grichuk contract was kind of weird in that he's only making $2 million during the season, but the buyout on the mutual option, which you never really expect mutual options to be upheld by both ends. So the buyout was actually the majority of the contract. Essentially, the Diamondbacks paid Randal Grichuk $1.3 million to have him for 4 months, and the Royals are paying $3.7 million to have him for 2 months. So financially, the D-backs come out pretty well here. And Andrew Hoffman is an interesting player. Looking at some of his arsenal numbers, Jack, his fastball, as you mentioned, it's a power fastball, averages 95 miles per hour. His bread and butter pitch is a changeup in the high 80s that has a ton of drop, not a lot of horizontal movement, but a ton of drop. And that pitch was very effective for him in AAA this year, a 39.4% whiff rate, which is really good. A 234 opponent batting average on that pitch. The expected numbers are even better than that. And then the fastball missed a lot of bats down in AAA as well, a 32.4% whiff rate. Again, that averages 95, and then he has a slider as well that averages 85 miles per hour. So it's an interesting arsenal. I know we mentioned things didn't go all that well for him when he was in the big leagues, and his command was just kind of a mess. So the D-backs, it sounds like, are going to have him in AAA. Maybe we see him in the majors before too long, though.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to make a mess of a guy, just keep him in Reno for a while, right? I mean, that environment. I think that it just get him up here and let him pitch and work it out. At this point, I don't think they should waste many bullets on him. If they want to just kind of integrate him into the system a little bit, let him know how they do things, and then bring him out. What's the point of wasting any time or down in Reno? What's he going to do at that point? He's either going to figure out how to locate his pitches, in the major leagues or not. That changeup, I mean, he did make a couple of location mistakes, in his major league appearances with the changeup. And that's just a good example. Like, you can have a really good pitch with really good movement profiles, but if you leave it in the middle of the plate and you leave it up, it's a changeup. It's going out. It's batting practice fastball is what it is.
Yeah.
So, you've got to be able to get that thing to dive under the strike zone and get guys swinging over the top.
Hoffman was not in the Royals MLB pipeline top 30. I think Fangraphs had him at number 22, though. So for all of the prospect ranking junkies out there, you didn't see him on MLB pipeline, but he was over on Fangraphs. Maybe he was on some other top lists for the Royals that I didn't see. But yeah, I think
in 2023 he had risen to like 14 or something like that.
Sure.
Around there, and now he's 25 years old. Does Pipeline put guys 25 and older on their prospect rank list? What's their cutoff?
I don't. Yeah,
Diamondbacks on SI, our cutoff is 25.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think Pipeline has a hard age cutoff. I've definitely seen guys who are 25, and I imagine it's possible for someone who's 26 to appear there. I don't totally know. But yeah, Hoffman is 25. I've definitely seen 25-year-olds on pipeline lists before. So, yeah, but he's a reliever, so you don't expect him to show up super high on prospect lists. I mean, once a team makes that decision, you're not going to have a number one prospect in your organization who's pitching in the minors down in AA or AAA. But the numbers for him in AAA, Jack, this season are really impressive. 33.3% strikeout rate, a 6.1% walk rate. Both of those are very good. And I mentioned an ERA in the low twos. He actually has significantly better numbers in AAA than Brandyn Garcia. And of course, we saw Brandyn Garcia pitch in the game on Sunday, and the D-backs clearly have no issues just bringing him right to the majors.
Yeah. By the way, the terminology that we often see when, whether it's Pipeline or Baseball America or whomever is evaluating prospects, reliever risk.
Yeah, right,
Reliever
right.
risk is high. Well, in today's Major League Baseball, over 45% of the innings go to relievers. It's not the same thing. I mean, the average starting pitcher, league average is 5.1 innings per start.
It's
Right?
crazy.
15 years ago, that was over 6. So, that's a big difference, right? That's a major chunk of innings that are going to relievers. So that phrase is almost a little bit outdated. I mean, the way teams use bullpens nowadays, relievers just have a higher value than they used to.
Yeah, it's a good point. Hoffman could be, I mean, if the Diamondbacks are able to hone in that command a little bit, if he's able to come up to the big leagues and really attack the strike zone in a way that he wasn't really able to in those couple of brief stints earlier this season, maybe this is a guy who's a staple in your bullpen for the next 6 seasons. I think you can certainly understand the Diamondbacks' approach here with just wanting to add arms to the organization, and in particular, wanting to add some arms to the bullpen who have good stuff. I mean, 95 with a high 80s changeup and a slider that performed pretty well in AAA. These are numbers that, I mean, the D-backs don't have a lot of these guys in the organization right now, so you can certainly understand the approach here. With Brandyn Garcia, Jack, we saw him pitch an inning on Sunday against the Pirates. I know it's just one inning, and you're not going to necessarily base a full-on scouting report on that, but I thought he looked pretty good. What did you see?
I was very encouraged. I mean, the way that, just seeing the movement on that pitch on his sinker was very eye-opening. It's one thing to pull up a video here or there, but to actually see him work through an inning and, really make guys kind of move their feet and hesitate because of the way that ball's moving was very impressive. And it's also probably a reason why he has trouble with walks as well, because the ball moves so much, you don't always know where it's going, I think. Just so much movement in that, it's hard to dial it back and keep it in the zone when guys take it. So what we saw probably is a pretty good microcosm of what we should expect, which was he walked the guy, but he got a ground ball double play and another ground ball. So plenty of ground ball action, plenty of weak contact when they do swing on him. But probably going to see a fair amount of walks with him for a while too. If he ever has a year where he drops that walk rate below 3, then he's going to be a lights out reliever.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly will be gives D-backs fans, it makes it a little more interesting the next couple months at the very least. This team is not trending in a positive direction, and you figure in the next few days, if Merrill Kelly and Zac Gallen and Eugenio Suárez are all traded, the day-to-day results, Jack, might be a little ugly. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how bullish I am on this team being over 500 the rest of the way. I mean, they're not going to lose 100 games or something like that. They'll still be a competent team the rest of the way, you would think. But yeah, having guys like Brandyn Garcia, maybe if we see Hoffman in the majors at some point soon, it at least gives fans something to kind of look forward to. And these guys obviously could be in the organization for a number of years to come.
Yeah. One other footnote on the Randal Grichuk portion. When the Diamondbacks signed him, they made it very clear to him that they were signing him to platoon and face left-hand pitching. That was made crystal clear by the front office when they negotiated with him and his agent, that that's the role that he was coming into. There was sometimes a lot of frustration on the part of some people that why isn't Grichuk playing more? But that's the role that was designed for him by the front office when he came. Even myself thought at some point, maybe they should move Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and see if they can move off of his contract and go ahead and play Grichuk and pick up his option, because I don't know how big a difference there is.
Yeah.
Not that Lourdes should be still worth more than Randal Grichuk, but is the difference enough to justify the contract? So I had those thoughts. So it's not that I didn't think that Grichuk wasn't capable of more than what he was giving the Diamondbacks. I think he possibly could have been. It was Torrey mentioned during his comments on Grichuk that Grichuk was a little frustrated. He wanted to play every day. but at the same time, he was a really good teammate, and he never made a fuss about it. And I can testify to that, just how he behaved in the clubhouse, how he operated around his teammates. They liked him very much. That much was evident in the dugout. There was a lot of emotion there. I can tell you that emotion wasn't for the cameras. That was real.
Yeah.
Another good guy. He was a really good clubhouse guy that, I'm going to miss seeing him around. I think he's a good player, and I think he played above average defense, and I liked watching him hit, those quick hands, being able to get to the ball on the inside. It was pretty cool watching him do that. So best of luck to Randal Grichuk.
Absolutely. I will never forget Randal Grichuk September of 2024, Jack. I mean, not D-backs fans, admittedly, probably don't have the best memories of September of 2024. It wasn't a great month for the team, but Randal Grichuk was insane in September of 2024. He hit 404, 451, 957, a 1408 OPS. He hit 7 of his 12 home runs for the season came in the month of September. These numbers don't even look real. And I think the fact that obviously the team fell out of the race at the end there, such a heartbreaking finish to the season, people maybe didn't take note of just the absolutely absurd month that Randal Grichuk put together. And on the whole, I mean, I know this year wasn't quite as good for him, but he really was pretty much exactly what the Diamondbacks hoped he would be. He was a huge part of them just getting outrageously good DH performance in 2024 alongside Jock Peterson. I know they used him in the outfield a little bit as well. But yeah, this was a move that worked really well for this organization, and it's it's a shame that we're not going to see him continue in that role here the rest of the way.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, Jack, if I don't know, if I was to be annoying and say that the over-under on Diamondbacks trades made in the next 4 days is 2.5, I'll start and say that I think I'm probably taking the over at this point. I don't know if that's a question you want to answer, but I'm asking anyway.
I'll take the under. I think it's going to be 2. I think 2 more players get moved.
Okay. Are you gonna who do you think the 2 are?
Talking about the rental guys, or because I mean, who knows with Mike, right? I mean, turn around and move a couple of prospects and bring in another reliever. Who knows what he's going to do?
Sure.
But if we're talking about the rental guys, if we're talking about Zac and Gino and Merrill, and I guess you can add Shelby and Jalen Beeks to that, I think he'll move 2.
Okay. Is there out of the 3 main rentals, is there one guy that stands out to you as like, this is the one that I think is less likely than the other 2, or are they kind of just all on the same level for you right now? You just feel like with the way things are going to work out, they're going to wind up maybe moving 2 of those guys instead of all 3.
I kind of go in the other direction. I can't imagine that some team isn't going to come knocking on the door real hard for Merrill Kelly.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, teams want good players that are going to help them get to where they want to go. Right? They want to get not only to the postseason, but they want to advance in the postseason. They want to get to the World Series and win a championship. And I can't believe that there isn't a team that's close to the opportunity to win a championship that can't use Merrill Kelly above their 4th or 5th starter and say, hey, now I've got the best rotation in, even a team that's got 3 top really good starters heading into the latter part of the season. And if Merrill Kelly slotted in as their 4th, I mean, you need 4 starters in the postseason, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can try to do 3 like the D-backs did in 23, and you end up throwing a couple of bullpen games. You have to have 4 starters, right? So I think Merrill Kelly has to be traded, because I think it would be absolutely unthinkable that some team isn't going to pay the price needed to get Merrill Kelly.
I am 100% with you there. I think the same probably goes for Gino, at least for me. I know that was another part of Ken Rosenthal's story that he published on Saturday, was he said that Suárez is almost certain to be moved. Those were his words. So I feel pretty confident that even if the D-backs maybe don't get exactly what they're looking for, I think exceeding the value of that compensation pick feels well within reason, just given the number of teams that need third base help. I guess the big question mark for me, Jack, going into this next week is, what does the market for Zac Gallen look like? How do teams view this guy after he struggled in 3 straight outings? against, certainly not the best of teams, right? He had a rough outing against the Angels, and then this one here against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I really have no idea what to expect. I mean, I think Sandy Alcantara is going to get moved. I think there's a market for him, even though his ERA is north of 6. But I don't know if the D-backs will get enough to warrant the trade with Zac Gallen.
Yeah, I wrote today in my series takeaways that Zac Gallen is the ultimate change of scenery candidate.
Yeah.
He's not fixable in an Arizona Diamondbacks uniform, right? I mean, we know that he wasn't receptive and wasn't in sync with Brent Strom. And so that was, something that kind of carried over into this season. He was very excited about Brian Kaplan coming on. He felt like he was very much in tune with what Kaplan was trying to do. But that hasn't helped him. He was very excited about James McCann becoming his designated catcher. That hasn't helped him. Over his last 73 starts, 414 innings, his ERA is 4.38. He's got a 30-28 record. That includes the postseason. Zac Gallen hasn't been anywhere near an ace since July 2nd, 2023. And it's just been a continual downward slide. He needs to go for his sake, not because I'm sick of him or anything like that. For his sake, he needs to change the scenery. He needs a completely different environment. He needs completely different voices. He needs a completely different organization and philosophy around him, where he'll be in a situation where he's just going to accept whatever it is that they're giving him as the input of what he needs to do to try to regain some value. So for me, that brings in the question of, like, do I even want to offer Zac Gallen a qualifying offer? Like, do I want to keep him to struggle to a 5 to 6 ERA for the next 2 months? Because it's not going to get any better. It really isn't. He's going to have too good, too bad, and that's just the way it's going to be. I mean, I don't know for sure. Of course, it's baseball.
It feels that way.
This is what's likely to happen based on his last 70-plus starts. I'm not basing this on a handful of starts. I'm basing this on 70-plus starts of this kind of performance, right? So I feel like I have a solid footing here to say it's not going to get better in Arizona, right? So if it's not going to get better, then do I want to take a risk of offering this guy $22 million and maybe he picks it up, and Scott Boras surprises us and says, yeah, let's give it a try and rebuild his, because he's not going to get a better, make good deal anywhere else. I mean, if he doesn't sign that, is any team going to give him $22 million for 1 year with a second-year option? Maybe, but maybe not.
Yeah.
And even then, like, okay, that's less than $50 million contract value. And you're not getting a first-round compensation pick anyway. So I'm almost at a point where I kind of lower my sights of what I need to get in return for Zac Gallen. I have no idea where Mike Hazen is on that. Based on his comments to Nick, he's still factoring in the qualifying offer. So probably not where I'm.
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation. We'll see how it all plays out here over the next few days. As we record this, we're about 4 days away, but as you guys are watching or listening to this, we're probably 3 days away. So be sure to keep it right here at Snakes Territory. We will do our best to react as soon as we can to any moves that go down. We certainly expect there to be at least one more trade. I can't really imagine that not happening. So we will be here on Snakes Territory, ready to react to all of these different things. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We just reached 1,000 subscribers. We really appreciate all of you helping us out there. Drop a like. Drop a like on this video. Leave us a comment. We'd love to know what you think. You can find us on social media. I am at Jesse N. Friedman. Jack is at ShoeWizard59. Our show is at Snakes Territory. And if you want a cool shirt like Jack has on right now, you can get that over at snakesterritoryshop.com. Jack does a great job covering the Diamondbacks over at si.com/MLB/Diamondbacks. You can read that takeaway story that he referenced earlier in the show, as well as all the other ones over on his site right now. Jack, any final thoughts before we head into trade deadline week?
Hold on to your hats, folks. I think we're going to see some really interesting developments, and hopefully we'll see the returns coming back that Diamondbacks fans will be proud of.
Will be fascinating to find out. Well, thank you all again for being with us on this episode. We really appreciate it, and we'll be back with another episode of Snakes Territory very, very soon.